This week on Ebert and Roeper, Drew Barrymore's life takes one sharp turn after another, riding in cars with boys.
Also, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy get animated in Waking Life.
And Warden James Gandolfini tries to stop inmate Robert Redford from taking the last castle.
When you first arrived here, I asked you a question. Apparently, I need to ask it again. What do you want from your time here at the castle, Mr. Irwin?
And my answer is the same as it was then. Do my time, go home.
So you say, but everything you have done has contradicted that.
Robert Redford is a war hero who squares off against James Gandolfini on the battlefield of a military prison in The Last Castle, one of 6 new movies we'll be reviewing this week. I'm Roger Ebert.
And I'm Richard Roeper. Robert Redford's golden boy looks have worn into a leathery handsomeness that suits him well for the part of General Eugene Irwin, a legendary and charismatic but disgraced soldier. Irwin disobeyed a direct order on his last mission and cost 8 men their lives, which resulted in a 10-year sentence for the former Vietnam POW. Frank Military plays a disgraced doctor who tells Irwin the prison is no country club.
Twice in the last year, there have been accidents where men have been hit in the head and killed.
And nothing can be proven.
We're talking about expert marksmen shooting from minimal distances.
James Gandolfini is the colonel who runs the prison and idolizes Irwin until the general starts giving the men ideas about standing up for themselves.
My men and I are vastly outnumbered. We spend every day behind enemy lines. Because make no mistake about it, Mr. Irwin, they are the enemy. But I don't need to justify myself to you, do I?
I don't know. Do you?
In what seems like a matter of days, Irwin has converted these con men, thieves, and violent criminals into a crack, patriotic fighting unit ready to win one for the Gipper.
They cannot take away from us who we are. And we are soldiers.
Yeah. That's right.
And there's the one thing, it is the one thing that gives us a chance in here.
The problem with that scene and with most of The Last Castle is that bogus emotion tramples all sense of logic and intelligence. Just a few words from the great Irwin and these cynical, disgraced former soldiers are ready to risk their lives for this guy. If only they'd known him during basic training. The rousing score, the heavy-handed symbolism, even the very face-off between the iconic Redford and a guy best known for playing Tony Soprano, it's just not a fair fight. This is director Rod Lurie's follow-up to The Contender, which was one of my favorite films of 2000, but this time his take on patriotism is skewed and just not very convincing.
Well, I have 2 approaches to this movie, but my first approach is I'm recommending it because it's a great audience picture. It is terrifically entertaining. Redford and Gandolfini are right on the money. I'm sure Gandolfini is going to get an Oscar nomination for this performance, which is really a departure and a development and a build on The Sopranos, in which he really plays a great villain. But on the other hand, my question about the movie is, after all, Redford is no better than Gandolfini because they both lead men into battle and lose most everybody. I mean, by the end of this movie, Redford has caused a great deal more pain, suffering, and death among the prisoners than Gandolfini ever did.
Well, that's a huge flaw in the movie. I mean, you're telling me you're recommending it, and you're saying that the very essence of this film is completely flawed.
But that's not the way audiences think. Audiences are going to be for the underdogs, they're going to be for the uprising.
So you're recommending this film not based so much that you like it, but you're saying that people are going to like it.
Oh, I liked it too. I liked it. And then when I got out of the theater and thought about it, it didn't hold up logically, but that's okay because a movie is an immediate experience. Audiences will love this picture.
You're as easy as those soldiers who just go right in step with Irwin. And I disagree with you about Gandolfini. I think he's a really strong actor, but not in this movie. And I think his character's weak, and I thought it'd be a better fight, a better battle between these two guys. But, Golden Boy Redford saves the day from start to finish, and the way these people react to him, Roger, is ridiculous in that prison. I mean, it's such a cartoon.
Well, it's all set up. Of course it is. We know that. That's how movies work. At least a movie like this is how it works.
All right.
Okay, our next movie is Dancing at the Blue Iguana, directed by Michael Radford, who made Il Postino, and a sleeper 15 years ago called White Mischief. This one tells the story of the performers at a Los Angeles striptease club in a series of scenes that came out of improvisational workshops with the actresses working on their own characters. The result is uneven, but sometimes fascinating. Daryl Hannah plays a ditzy headliner named Angel, who works in the sex business but is still fuzzy about the facts of life.
I heard on the Discovery Channel that sperm can live a really long time.
When's the last time?
Like
It's not yours.
7 months.
Castle, is yours?
No, I don't know.
Is that yours?
I mean,
not mine.
It's not yours. No, it's not. It's not.
That's Sandra Oh as Jasmine. She's secretly a poet, and her personality clashes with the brash Bulgarian Joe, played by Jennifer Tilly.
I would appreciate it if you didn't, like,
get all over that black guy. He's one of my regulars.
The black guy with the jerry curl? That's one of your regulars?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, it's such a freak. You know, I would appreciate if you took that guy back because he's just an ass. Let me give you a suggestion, sweetheart. You should get a job.
Robert Wisdom plays Eddie, the club manager, who has an artistic side, but plays tough with the strippers.
I'll come back on Monday. I'll work all the rest of the week. I need the weekend off.
Tomorrow night, you dancing. You one of my star girls. I need you in here, so don't be, okay?
These are women with big issues and messy lives, and the movie is true to that, showing Jasmine afraid to commit to a poet she likes, Joe acting out her aggressions, and the naive Angel, so innocent she actually talks herself into a pot fuss by asking a policeman to unlock a car door that is already unlocked. Sandra Oh and Kristen Bauer, as a visiting headliner, have a heartbreaking late-night scene at the end where they spill out all of their doubts and pain. Dancing at the Blue Iguana is not a neat movie, but it's a brave one.
I would agree with that. I think Daryl Hannah's the best thing in the movie. That scene with the cop where, you know, I think it is, like you said, it's a workshop thing where they're really working back and forth, but you're not too aware of it. Other scenes you are aware that these two actors in various scenes are kind of working at it, and they're saying, okay, well, that was a great bit of acting on our part. Sometimes it's too self-conscious, but I think she's really good, and Sandra Oh as well.
Yeah, you know, Hannah has a great scene with a social worker where she's trying to convince her that she's fit to adopt a child, and she just is spectacularly unfit, even to adopt herself.
It's very funny, but there's also this pathos about it. And let's also mention that at 40-something, Daryl Hannah, upside down and naked on a pole, is something we're seeing in a movie as well.
Yes, but also let's mention that Sandra Oh, who goes out and does a striptease in front of the boy that she loves but doesn't think will accept her, there's a little tear that comes down while she's upside down on the pole, and that's a very effective piece of acting.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Okay, coming up later in the show, Drew Barrymore learns the facts of life riding in cars with boys.
How do I look?
You look beautiful, Mommy.
And coming up next, the world between dreaming and waking life.
Everyone's sleepwalking through their waking state or wake-walking through their dreams.
It wasn't like a typical dream. It seemed more like I'd walked into an alternate universe or something.
Yep, it's real. I mean, technically, it's a phenomenon of sleep, but you can have so much damn fun in your dreams.
A young man who's dreaming talks about dreams to an expert dreamer in a movie that looks like a beautiful dream, and it's called Waking Life. This is that rare film that drops your jaw and makes you say, wow. First, because of its stunning visuals, and then for its dazzling whirl of challenging ideas that will make your brain sing and your imagination soar. Director Richard Linklater shot the movie on digital video and then enlisted animators who used new computer software to paint over the images.
Walk around like, you know, there are some holy moments and there are all the other moments that are not holy, right? But like this moment's holy, right? And I feel like film can let us see that, you know, can frame it so that we see like, this moment, you know, holy. And it's like holy, 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 moment by moment.
In another segment, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy revisit their characters from Linklater's 1995 film Before Sunrise.
And the second of dream consciousness, right? Well, that's infinitely longer than a waking second. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For example, I wake up and it's 10:12, and then I go back to sleep, and I have those long, intricate, beautiful dreams that seem to last for hours, and then I wake up and it's 10:13.
Waking Life has a kind of liquid comic book feel. Some of the faces seem to shimmer as if slightly underwater. And that's how I sometimes feel when I'm dreaming, as if I'm just under the surface of my life, trying to control things, even as I'm somewhat aware on one level that the dream is really in charge. Then again, most of the guest stars in my dreams don't name-drop Dostoevsky or try to solve the riddle of reincarnation as they do here. But despite, or maybe because of the dazzling look and the rapid-fire dialogue about the meaning of existence, Waking Life transcends the art house label. It's clever and accomplished, but it's also just a lot of fun.
Boy, it sure is. This is way up at the very top, in the top 5 at least, of the best films of the year. Maybe it's even higher than that. Wow. I think it's a fabulous picture. And the thing that I like the best is the way it takes these ideas and by animating them, somehow transcends them. So that if you just saw a movie of these people talking about this stuff, it might be a little dry. But the movie is so vibrantly, excitingly alive. Every single shot is so much fun to watch, and then somehow by exaggerating the faces and the gestures, glasses come out like this and arms go like this, It underlines the words, so it makes them easier to hear and understand.
Yeah, each character has a little bit of a different style. I mean, it's all sort of part of one big form, but it changes. And just when you're thinking, oh, it's getting a little too preachy or ponderous, the Wiley Wiggins character goes somewhere else. And you meet somebody else interesting, and there's always something great to look at on the screen.
We have had so many brain-dead movies this year, so many movies that have been dumbed down. This is a movie that makes you feel like you're smart and you're glad to be alive and you're glad to be engaged in these wonderful ideas. It is a great movie.
I would agree with that.
Okay, coming up next, Drew Barrymore has a lifetime to regret one night of riding in cars with boys.
And looking ahead to next week's openings, we'll review Jeff Bridges trying to make sense of Kevin Spacey in K-Pax.
He's the most convincing delusional I've ever come across.
Pretend that I'm your parent. Okay, you'll just say what you're going to say. You'll get through it. Okay, just tell it to me like you would tell it to them. I'm pregnant. My daughter's a tramp. My daughter's a tramp. You're a disgrace.
It's 1965, and Drew Barrymore doesn't know how to tell her parents she's 15 and pregnant in that scene from Riding in Cars with Boys, adapted from the autobiography of Beverly D'Onofrio. It wasn't riding in cars that got her in trouble, but parking with a guy named Ray Hassick, who has a good heart but is utterly clueless and has big problems with booze and drugs. With the teenager's optimism, Beverly hopes having her own house and husband is going to solve everything.
Very few people in my life have ever treated me as good as you do. And that's got to mean something good, right?
That's Steve Zahn in his best performance. Beverly gets most of the child care duties, even on the big day when she interviews for a college scholarship.
How do I look?
You look beautiful, Mommy.
No, say that I look smart.
You look smart, Mommy. You do.
Thank you.
Her husband forgets to babysit the child, and she loses the scholarship because an admissions officer decides she's too distracted by the kids.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just another angry housewife yelling at her husband on the lawn in front of the entire neighborhood!
Drew Barrymore plays that character from age 15 to age 35, always convincingly, and Steve Zahn covers the same span of years and actually changes even more as his life spirals downhill into addiction. These are two powerful performances, maybe Oscar contenders. Riding in Cars with Boys is not a feel-good, rags-to-riches story, but has a lot of truth, pain, and hard lessons in it. It's narrated by the 20-year-old version of Jason, her son, who believes his mother blames him for everything that went wrong, and indeed, Beverly is better at placing blame than accepting responsibility, although she learns, and that's what the movie is really about.
My biggest problem actually is Drew Barrymore's performance, which I did not find convincing. I didn't think she was believable as a 15-year-old, and I certainly didn't think she was believable as this 35-year-old professional. She strikes the same note throughout the movie. I think Steve Zahn gives an Oscar-quality performance, and that just illustrates that Drew Barrymore just isn't that good in this film, and that's what sinks it for me, and that's what has me saying thumbs down.
Thumbs down?
Thumbs
on the
down.
whole movie?
Yeah, I'm saying thumbs down on the movie, absolutely. Okay. And you also mentioned that it doesn't have this kind of Hallmark feel or doesn't feel good. I actually think it does have a lifetime movie of the week quality.
It's really tough on her.
Oh, and it, I don't want to give too much away, but it tries to wrap things up in certain ways that's going to make us walk out of there feeling good, but the rest of the material
not really. She still has a lot of work to do at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with you about Steve Zahn, but first of all, look at this. Nobody looks the same when they're 15 and 35. I mean, so the fact that she's able to be pretty convincing at both extremes and very convincing in the middle is about all you can ask any actress to do.
I don't think she's pretty convincing. I do. I think, yeah. When she's bursting into tears, it's just striking the same note. That scene you talked about in the with the administrator where the kid was sitting, I thought that was just all wrong. He's too harsh. The kids, it just didn't feel.
I don't know.
Like,
I think maybe today it might be seen that way, but you're thinking about 30 years ago. Yeah. But it might have been exactly like that because things were different then.
I wouldn't mind if people go to see this to concentrate on Steve Zahn. I do think he should get an Oscar nomination, but I thought the film was weak. Okay, our next movie is called Intimacy, and it would be disingenuous if I didn't lead by saying there are numerous explicit sex scenes between the two leads, including a moment of oral genital contact. But the New Zealand-born Kerry Fox and British stage veteran Mark Rylance bravely surrender their bodies as they plunge into this intense character study. He's a bartender estranged from his wife and children. She's married and dabbles as an actress. Claire and Jay meet like that every Wednesday, no strings attached, until Jay grows curious about Claire's life beyond Wednesday. He buddies up to her husband, Andy, played by Timothy Spall from Topsy-Turvy and Secrets and Lies, who doesn't realize his new friend is having an affair with his wife.
What day did you say you saw her?
Wednesday. Wednesday. That's a really good day for me, Wednesdays, yeah. Yeah, I do really good business Wednesdays.
Intimacy is directed with unrelenting honesty by Patrice Chereau, who has a keen eye for the details of lower middle-class life and a refreshingly uncinematic view of sex. Fox and Rylance are attractive and they're consumed by bursts of lust, but they're trysting in a crummy apartment that isn't filled with 400 candles or lit like a Celine Dion video. It's not the graphic sex that's most memorable about Intimacy. It's the tough writing and the stellar acting.
Yes, that's true. And I recommend this movie, and I admire this movie, although there's an interesting thing about it. I saw it at Sundance. I came out and I ran into a woman I know who said you can tell it's directed by a man because the sex all begins in the bottom of the ninth inning, and no woman would ever look at sex like this as totally involved in like the last 60 seconds of the encounter with no sweet talk, no tenderness, no foreplay. And in a way, that's true. It's interesting that this man really has great anger against women. He's angry about the fact that his marriage broke up, then he tries to break up her marriage. He is filled with issues that aren't being resolved, and the movie never really deals with them, although it puts them out there so that we can deal with them ourselves.
I think that's even coming from a woman, kind of a chauvinist point of view. I think women can have that approach to sex.
Okay, when we come back, William H. Macy and Laura Dern star in Focus about a quiet street where hate begins to grow. Our next movie, Focus, takes place on one block of an American city during World War II, where homegrown fascists channel their hate and fear into anti-Semitism. It stars William H. Macy and Laura Dern as a recently married couple who are not Jewish but discover that their neighbors think that they are. There's a boycott against a Jewish store owner played by David Paymer.
This morning, Carlson was willing to lay a real bet that you would buy from Finkelstein. He thought you were the type.
What type?
That's Meatloaf a Day as the local leader of a right-wing hate group. When Macy stops buying his newspapers at the corner store, Paymer confronts him.
You don't understand. It isn't what you've done. It's what others of your people have done.
So in other words, when you look at me, you don't see me.
I don't see you? What do you mean?
I mean what I said.
The Macy character has always tried to lay low and avoid trouble, but as the pressure mounts, he pays a late-night visit to Paymer's store.
There's hundreds of millions of people in this country, and a couple of million is Jews. It's you they want, not me. They are a gang of devils, and they want this country. And I must tell you, if you had any regard for your country, you wouldn't tell me to move.
People have been asking me to list patriotic movies, and to me that means movies about ideals. Macy has always been good at playing everyman, and here he excels as an office worker who gets a wake-up call from right next door. Laura Dern's character isn't naive. She knows the score and is both more afraid and more defiant than her husband. Focus could be about any minority group, which I think might be the point.
Definitely the point. It's a message movie, and it's very obvious about that, but it really works well as such, and the performances are really strong. And I love the fact that it's the glasses that Macy's character gets that sends this whole thing spiraling out of control. Just the wrong, supposedly wrong pair of glasses that make him look Jewish, and all this stuff happens. And just when you think, well, that could never happen, well, it does happen. It did happen back then, and it's happening today.
And all the scenes about the employment interviews and whether or not they're hiring Jews at this company and whether they're hiring them at that company, and her own experience and the way they meet for the first time, it all kind of fits together into a portrait of prejudice.
And you know who's really strong here is the artist formerly known as Meatloaf, as the next-door neighbor. Really
He's been good in a couple of movies. Yeah.
Okay, when we come back, my parting shot.
You're doing great, okay?
Ben Stiller's most successful movies have been his goofiest, so I guess that explains why he wants to do a big screen version of Starsky and Hutch. What could be more ridiculous than celebrating bad hair, stiff acting, pleather jackets, and an orange Ford Torino? But classic TV shows almost always make for awful films. Has Stiller not seen Charlie's Angels, My Favorite Martian, and Sergeant Bilko, to name just a few? Don't make me come to your house with a Flintstones double feature, Ben. Now, there's always a chance Stiller will turn Starsky and Hutch into a campy hoot or a whiz-bang romp, but if he's going to dip into the reservoir of old TV shows, I'd like to see him tackle something intriguing, like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or Dark Shadows, or even Bewitched. He'd make a great Darren to Gwyneth Paltrow's Samantha, And that's my parting shot.
Okay, recapping this week's movies, we split on The Last Castle. 2 thumbs up for Dancing at the Blue Iguana. 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for Waking Life. A split vote on Riding in Cars with Boys. 2 thumbs up for Intimacy, which is appropriate for adults. And 2 more thumbs up for Focus.
Remember, you can hear our reviews at ebert-roeper-movies.com and read us in print at suntimes.com. Next week, we'll be back with Kevin Kline and Kristen Scott Thomas in Life is a House. And until then, the balcony is closed.
And you know, I've seen Waking Life 3 times, and I want to see it again because this movie is so rich and so exhilarating.
I don't want people to think this is an art house movie or an experimental film and it's taking a big chance. Once you see it, the first 30 seconds, you're into this movie.
You're right.
Battery. Video games blast through batteries and your money. So arm yours with Rayovac Maximum. Last as long as standard Duracell and Energizer for less. Rayovac.
These babies were conceived using the Clear Plan Easy Fertility Monitor. It identifies more fertile days each cycle than any leading method. Clear Plan, clear results.
Rent the greatest thrills and chills just in time for Halloween. Check out Richard Roeper's picks for the top scary movies available at your neighborhood Blockbuster store. Blockbuster, bringing entertainment home.
Right now at LensCrafters, get a complete pair of glasses with DuraLens, our most scratch-resistant plastic lens for only $99. The $99 DuraLens event. This one you don't want to miss.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is brought to you by...
Brake sales don't come any bigger. Get 50% off lifetime brake pads and shoes at Meineke.
At Meineke, you won't pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.